Ever dreamed of traveling the world but thought you couldn't afford it? What about training abroad, pursuing an athletic goal, or launching that adventure you've been putting off? Welcome to the Finn Wardman World Explorer Fun podcast, where we share stories with people who've turned their biggest dreams into reality, often on a shoestring budget. Each episode, we sit down with explorers, nonprofit leaders, and people who've received grants to make the impossible happen. I'm Jordy, and this is where we unpack adventure, one story at a time. This is the World Explorer Fun podcast. I'm Jordy, and I'm here with Amy. How are you today, Amy?
You're doing really good. Thank you for having me on, Jordy.
Yeah, I'm excited. So tell me, maybe you could just start with where are you right now?
I'm in Las Galeras, Samana. I'm in the Dominican Republic, and it's a small, sleepy town. It's a fisherman's town, actually. The Wi-Fi works 50% of the time, power, electricity 50% of the time, but it's an amazingly beautiful place, which I highly recommend if you're ever in the Caribbean.
Give me a little backstory, like what you're doing, like what your goal is with your travel, that kind of thing.
So instead of choosing a place to travel and then figuring out what to do there, I usually go in with what new hobby I want to pick up. So for me, I had always wanted to learn bachata, which is a social dance. And bachata originated in the Dominican Republic. So I decided, why not come to the Dominican Republic and learn bachata? From there, I like having a hobby that kind of guides me through whatever country it is, because I think just every country has so much to offer, right? You need something to ground you down to actually getting to know the local community. So I started learning bachata, and it kind of just took me to different cities around here. So like I heard Las Terrenas was a good place to go, so I would go there and learn bachata. I heard Las Galeras was like a sleepier town, but there's also a lot of bachata, so that's why I'm here. But like how I think the beautiful thing about one, cheap traveling and just budget traveling, along with having an intention before you go travel, and also just slow traveling, it lets you really explore the places that you're in outside of just like boom, boom, boom. Let me see a bunch of like expensive attractions and then come home and forget all of it. So yeah, I've been in Las Galeras, this small town, for 2 weeks now. Just absolutely fell in love with the slow pace of life. And that's the beauty of slow traveling. I get to just take my time in each place and really get to know the community.
That's great. So how's your dancing going?
Actually not bad. I've been told by a lot of people that they're like, oh my God, are you Dominican? I'm like, no, I'm just a Chinese girl. Actually, it's improved a lot, but I think something that's so nice about going to the original place, the birthplace of whatever hobby you're learning, is outside of the technicalities and the flashiness and the commercialized aspect of it, it's a good reminder that, bachata and dance and hobbies, they came from a place of love, and they came from a place of joy and community and expression. And sometimes in, the commercial space, we lose that a little bit. So my dancing is getting better.
Wow, I believe it. Take me back to like how you got to this travel adventures that you're doing right now.
I graduated college in 2021, and I was really on like my corporate grind. I worked at Amazon, then I worked at Warner Brothers, and I was working in the video game space. And my goal was always to climb this corporate ladder. Not that it's a bad thing, but because that was just kind of what was instilled into me.
Yeah.
And then one day I just realized I wasn't happy. And I feel like when you realize that there's a ladder that you don't want to climb anymore, that's an incredibly scary thought, because, well, then what am I supposed to do? What ladder am I supposed to be on?
Yeah.
I think something that really hit me was, I thought I'd always had this pipe dream of just like learning Spanish, and I didn't really know how that would come into fruition. But in my head, I was like, I'm just going to make it happen one day. And then it occurred to me where I was like, I could just do it now. I don't have children. I don't have like an insane amount of debt. Like if there were to be a time, like why not now? And the idea really just started festering in my mind. I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I think for us in the US, it's having an adult sabbatical, an adult gap year, is very unheard of. So it was very scary for me to ever even conceive of this idea. But eventually, I kind of worked up the courage, decided I'm just going to quit my job, maybe travel for like 3-4 months, take a quick sabbatical. And so I quit my job last year in April. I think April 16th was my last day. So we're coming
Wow.
out to
Okay.
exactly a year.
Wow, that's exciting. What a
I
landmark, huh?
know it is. Corporate life feels so far behind me, but I think I just decided I want to take a 3 or 4 month sabbatical and then go back into it and like get back into the corporate grind. But then I left. I started traveling South America, and the more I traveled, the more I realized like corporate isn't the only path to just like living and life. And
Yeah.
so that's what my 3 month sabbatical turned into a year. And here we are in the Dominican
When
Republic.
That's great. When you left, did you have like kind of like a budget? It's like, okay, I can only afford to travel for 3 months. Like, how much money did you have?
Yeah. So I had 23K saved up. My parents gave me some money. My grandparents gave me some money. So it ended up being like 26K. And in my
Yeah.
head, I was like 26,000. Like in California, that's gone in four
Yeah.
months. And so in my head, I thought, okay, 24K is enough for me to travel for 3 months and then come back and have a runway for another 3 months. So in my
Okay.
head, I didn't think 23K was a lot back
Yeah.
then. And then as I was traveling, I realized, wait, what the experiences where I spend more money and then the experiences where I spent less money, I got the same level of satisfaction from it. And so it occurred to me, I was like, I don't actually have to be spending all this money. So I started budget traveling, and now, I mean, I'm a year into this, and I'm maybe like, what, 10K into my 26K. So
Wow.
I'm
So you really have then survived for a full year for 10,000. That's
uh
that.
pretty much. I mean, I did go home for the holidays, but
Yeah.
like right now, I'm traveling on like a 1K budget, which for me is very comfortable. I don't have to
Okay.
volunteer. I don't have to work a side job. Eventually, if I need to lower that down to 500, I would start volunteering. I would start working at hostels. But I think the amazing thing about the more you travel, the more you realize like you can make it work with honestly any budget. I think
Yeah.
I are born into the privilege of having the option to travel to anywhere and making US dollars. And so that means if you get a little bit crafty and you get a little bit creative, you can live on any budget.
Figured it out. Yeah. No, that's great to hear because we have a grant. We have an adventure grant for 10,000, and we hope that people that get it can stay out for a year. And so
Oh,
that's the whole sort of idea. And it's like we want people to have totally life changing experiences so that when they come back after that year, they're no longer looking at their home communities or their problems that they were before they left. Just like not be scared of the uncertain, or like know that no matter what, they're not going to end up sleeping under a park bench or whatever. um
mhm.
and I think, what's your feelings with that? I mean, when you went in like going for 3 months and you were like, well, I'm not going back, and like now where are you at?
Listen, when I first thought I had 26K, I was like, that's gonna last me like 4 months. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
10K. Oh, I can easily do a year with 10K. So I think when you are in your own environment, you don't know what's out there, right? And so it's incredibly scary to feel like whatever you have is enough. But once you go out there, once you take that first leap of faith, you realize life works out because you make it work and you know how to make it work. And I believe everybody knows how to make it work. They just have to take that first leap of faith.
Yeah. What are some of your biggest pointers for somebody that maybe like, oh my God, how can I make 5,000 last 6 months or something?
The other thing I like to do is, well, especially when you're traveling to countries where it's more affordable and the US dollar is valued more, you instinctively translate everything into US dollars. So I've talked about this on my Instagram page as well as like my travel guides. Let's say you're buying a cup of coffee and the cup of coffee is, let's say, then like 10 pesos. If you translate that to US dollars, it's maybe 50 cents, and you'll automatically be like, oh, that's really cheap. But what I do is I use the bus math. So go to whatever local country you're in, figure out what the price of a bus ride is. That is like your $1. So for example, this costs 10 pesos. And if a bus ride costs 5 pesos, then you take 10, which is the cup of the coffee, divided by 5, which is like your divider, and
Yeah.
then think which is 2. So this cup of coffee isn't really 50 cents, it's 2 US dollars. And then you're like, okay, this is not extremely cheap, but it's still affordable. And so
Yeah.
that's how I use the price point. This is what it would feel like for a local to be paying for it. I use this because sometimes excursions, let's say, will cost like 80 US dollars. And when we think it's justifiable, $80 is a lot for the local price. And it's probably
Yeah.
not right price point. And so using that math, I get a gauge of like how much it would cost for a local, and if this would be overcharged if I was like a local.
I love that. So kind of a bus ride is sort of the way that you think about like how to anchor it on in terms
Exactly.
of
The
like
anchor.
local. Yeah, okay. When you go to somewhere, do you just like kind of arrive in an airport and just kind of figure it out, or like how do you plan for stuff? Like when you're in the Dominican, like where are you going next? Like how long are you there? Do you have to have a flight out? Like how do you manage that kind of stuff?
I just fly to the cheapest city and I figure it out from there. And that's literally my strategy. I have no plan. I have no anything. I wing it day by day and it works. But I think what's important is to come in with a specific intention. Every country is big and there's so much to see. And everyone's going to be like, you have to see this, you have to see this, you have to see this. But what's important is I came into the Dominican Republic and I was like, I want to learn bachata. I'm going to fly to the cheapest city, the capital for me. And then I'm just going to figure out which cities and which areas to go that are anchored around this bachata dance. I think when I went to Bolivia, I didn't have an anchor. And what that meant is I just rushed and sped through everything. And then I left and I was like, I have no idea what I just saw. And so from that experience, I realized I didn't want to travel like that. I wanted to learn salsa. So I went to Puerto Rico and I basically just followed around cities and areas that would allow me to experience salsa. I literally I book a flight and I show up and I figure it out from there. And I think oftentimes when you pre-plan it, you'll hear city names and you'll hear things, but you don't really know what they are, right? They just sound like things to you. And
Yeah.
I feel like you have to be at that place and connect with local people and really be like, oh, so that's this part of the country. It's known for X, Y, and Z. That makes the planning process so much easier. Because if not, it just becomes really overwhelming. You might go into a city and not like it, but you already pre-booked 4 days there. Or you might find a city that you thought you like and just ended up falling in love with it. Like you just don't know until you see it. So I don't really do that much pre-planning.
Okay. And the whole time, I imagine you're meeting people and traveling with people, or are you just traveling alone? Do you want to you want to go with them and you travel with them for 3 weeks, or like, tell me about like traveling, or is it mostly alone?
I travel with the intention of being alone, but I always meet people that I really bond with and connect with. If they're going to a city that I'm also interested in, I'll be like, I'm just going to tag along with you. But when it's time to part, it's also time to part. But for the most part, I travel alone. I also like being alone as much as I like being with people as well. I think something about traveling alone that's so beautiful is like you recognize how impermanent things are. Like when friendships are impermanent, when even romantic relationships are impermanent, you become so much more appreciative of the time you have together. I've learned from my time solo traveling, when it's time to part ways with someone, it's time to part ways. Like don't force it. Say goodbye and then keep moving.
I like that. What about some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
Way too many. I would say, actually, a friend recently asked me, like, what is the best part about traveling? Like, what do you like the most? And I'm gonna say it's not the luxury, it's not the villas, it's not even the beautiful scenes or like the adrenaline rush. It's actually watching other people's extremely mundane life and seeing how they add meaning to it. I feel like in the West, we put so much time and energy and money into just finding our purpose. Like, what am I supposed to do here? What am I brought onto this earth for? What is my purpose? But you go to another place and a fisherman will just go in the morning, catch fish, and then come home and play soccer. And that's his day. And it's meaningful and it's beautiful to him. And you realize people who live so drastically and radically different from you are very happy and content with their life. And your way of living isn't the only way of living. And I think that ends up being, my favorite part of traveling, and probably the biggest lesson I take away from it is that every mundane, boring life is beautiful if you choose to give it meaning.
That's really nice. Do you think you'll be able to bring that back home when you get back in the craziness of wherever you're from?
I live in San Francisco, and funny enough is I felt this way. And as soon as you land in San Francisco, you are blasted with AI, like bulletin boards about how you need to maximize your output and use generative AI to, work while you're sleeping. And you don't realize it while you're living in SF, or just like in the US, but there's such a push to get you to produce and get you to work.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this intention that I have, like I do have to constantly remind myself of it because it's easy to get sucked back into the old environment. But it's a good reminder that even the San Francisco and the US life is also beautiful in its own way, right? If you choose to give it meaning. But yeah, I think being able to come back and still remember this is something I need to work through and try to remember. So we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah. How about the hard things? Because your show, what's it called? It's
Hard but worth
it. Exactly. Yeah. Tell me about the hard parts.
Honestly, getting scammed. It's gonna happen. You can't do anything about it, and it's so hard because you're alone, and all you do is like you're alone, and you're like, I'm an idiot. I'm just an idiot. You have no one to depend on, and it really sucks. I would say a really sucky experience I had recently was I had made a friend, and he was incredibly kind and incredibly supportive and just kind of the one person I could trust here. And then one day he got drunk and started getting violent. And luckily I'm okay. I'm safe. I left. But I felt so ridden with like guilt and stupidity. I was like, God, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I see the signs earlier? I should have known. And then I started feeling like mad at myself and then mad at him at the same time. And you go through all of these turmoil experiences alone. And that's the hard part, right? Where you don't have anyone to hand walk you through it. But because it's hard, that means you always come out the other side with a completely new understanding of who you are and how to be extremely forgiving and appreciative of yourself. So the reason why I call the show Hard But Worth It, and the hard is in parentheses, is because everything that's worth it is hard. But don't focus on the hard part. Focus on the later part when it does become worth it.
Tell me your craziest dream. We want to fulfill it. Like, how do you help people sort of like kind of think about like, I don't even know what my dream is. I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. It feels so unreachable or so unattainable. What would you tell someone that's listening, thinking about going traveling? Like, how do you cross that line?
You know what's crazy is I think the older you get, the more you are so scared of dreaming, because when you have a dream, that also means you can fail. And for me, that was really scary to ever admit that I had a dream, because that meant I had a bar that I had to hit. And if I didn't hit it, it was proof that I was a failure, if you will. I'd like to remind anyone out there, especially young audiences, is being able to dream is the most beautiful thing you have. And I've noticed that every time I've had a dream that I've been too scared to admit, the moment I finally said to myself, no, this is what I want, as soon as you cross that bridge of admitting to yourself it's your dream, everything else falls into place. After that, it actually becomes so much easier. I could not admit for the longest time that I wanted to be a travel content creator. That was hard for me to admit. I didn't even want to say I wanted to be an influencer. I was like, no, that's not my thing. I don't actually want to do it. And then I realized it was because I was scared. I was scared of rejection. I was scared of failing publicly. You know, you come up with 10,000 reasons, right? Why, right? But as soon as I admitted it to myself and to my friends and to my family that that's what I want to do, brand deals started coming in, money started coming in, my creativity started exploding. Like, it actually becomes so much easier once you admit to yourself that that's what you want. And if you have that dream, like, please protect it with everything you can. And I share a story actually where my parents are immigrants. I'm Chinese, and so there's the go to school, be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, stay in your corporate life, right? And so when I had first told my mom that I wanted to quit my job to travel South America, I was like, hey, Mom, this is my idea. If you really don't want me to do it, I won't do it. But I just want you to know this is my dream, and I would really like to do this, but I will always respect you at the end. And she was quiet. She didn't talk to me. She didn't say anything. She did the thing where she just kept cleaning the kitchen, didn't say anything, didn't look at me. And then a week later, she was like, well, I got you a backpack because you're going to need that for your trip, right? And so she was like, here we are, right? And then this was months leading up to when I was quitting. And then the day before I decided to put in my 2 week, I got cold feet. I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what got into me. I think I was just crazy for the last few months. I'm not doing it. And I called my mom and I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't just not have a job. And she told me, Amy, you have no idea how many people, the moment they get their first paycheck, they let go of every passion, every dream, every hope they've ever had because it's so comfortable. So if you still have a passion, I need you to protect it with everything you have. And that really made me think, damn, I got to do it. And I hope that story resonates.
It does. It's great, and it's so fitting that your mother passed on the same sentiments that you're now encouraging to other listeners. So, that's really coming down from your mother's straight through into your heart and out. You've learned Spanish. You've learned how to do the dancing, and you've seen all these amazing places and experiences. What's your dream now?
I guess a mission statement, if you will, is to remind others that like people are still good and the world is still beautiful if you see it with beautiful eyes. So everything I do from social media is to inspire this message. So anywhere from my Instagram, my Substack is just a reminder of that.
Great. Okay. Well, I can't wait to. I'm going to start following you on Substack, and
Hell
thank you
yeah.
so much for your time, Amy. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jordy. Sue, thank you for having me on.